Good morning, Bulldog family. Today I'm going to be talking about the ins and outs of FERPA and what we should be doing to protect ourselves. It seems like in education we see acronyms everywhere we look. FERPA is one that you will want to remember. FERPA is the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act. This is a federal law that was passed in 1974. FERPA protects the privacy of student education records that are maintained by the school. FERPA applies to all schools that receive funds from the United States Department of Education. All public schools, elementary or secondary, are subject to FERPA. FERPA also applies to colleges and universities where students can receive financial aid from the federal government. These can be public or private colleges or universities. Who is granted rights under FERPA? Parents of school-aged children are given rights. These rights are transferred to the student once the student turns 18. Rights are also transferred for students who are attending a post-secondary institution. So, if a student is 17 years of age but is attending a post-secondary institution, they are granted the rights. Under FERPA, parents are able to see and review their child's education records. If something is incorrect, parents have the right to request to amend their education records. It's important to know that this request must be made in writing. Parents have the right to deny access for others to see education records, but there are some exceptions to this, which we'll cover next. And finally, parents have some control over the disclosure of personally identifiable information. While parents have the right to deny access for others to see their child's education records, there are some exceptions. Those may include to school officials or officials of other schools. This would occur if a student is moving or transferring schools. For financial aid purposes, because colleges and universities where students can receive financial aid, education records may need to be forwarded to these post-secondary institutions. State educational agencies may also disclose information about its students' scores on state assessments to other schools within the state where a student seeks enrollment. And in case of an emergency, appropriate persons, like the parents of an adult-aged child, may be given access. It's important to remember that access to student records should only be allowed if the requesting agency has a valid court order or subpoena in compliance with FERPA. Student information should not be given out if this is not present. Our Secretary of Education, Betsy DeVos, said, "FERPA is an area where widespread confusion remains, and this clarification will give local school leaders and law enforcement the tools they need to protect student privacy while ensuring the health and safety of students." She said this after a report answering common questions relating to FERPA. So it's nice to see that there's some clarity coming about and she's really working for us. And Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, in our schools. So schools may not require a birth certificate or social security number be provided as a condition of enrollment. They also cannot ask about the student's immigration status or citizenship in order to enroll. Schools may request documentation to determine that minimum age requirements are met. So there are a variety of acceptable documents, including a birth certificate or a social security card, but it also could be a religious record or a medical record. I keep talking about education records. What are they? Education records include information like grades or progress reports, their attendance records, or health records, but health records have to be maintained by the school. Medical records are covered by HIPAA until that information is in school files. Once it is in the school files, it becomes an education record, which is then subject to FERPA. It's important to know the difference between education records and directory information. So directory information is information that can be shared without parental permission, or consent from students of age. Schools and institutions will reach out to parents or students of age and inform them of the information about to be released. At this time, parents or students of age can request for information to not be shared. So I've actually pulled a picture, and this is a chart straight from our handbook that states the directory information our district acquires. And our district makes it very clear that written notice must be made before the first day of school each year if parents do not want USD 364 to disclose directory information. So those students who you cannot share this directory information, that will be on file. There will be a written notice on file. Another term that I use frequently is school officials. When I refer to school officials, I'm talking about the professionals within the school district. So teachers, principals, board members, etc. Our school defines a school official as any person who is employed by the school as an administrator, supervisor, instructor, or support staff member, including health or medical staff and law enforcement personnel, or a person serving on the school board. So some things to think about. Cunningham's article talks about how K-12 schools can comply with FERPA. Schools in an educational agency are responsible for the data of their students, and no one should have access to that besides parents, students, and third-party service providers. He gives 3 questions to think about in his article. Why are we holding this information? How long should we hold it? And who are we allowing to have access to? So those 3 questions lead us into what we can do to protect our school. First, it's important to only share information with school officials only when it is needed to get a job done. Second, email is not recommended as a means of communication for sensitive information. And finally, destroy education records when they are no longer needed. While there are no regulations from FERPA requiring that schools destroy education records, this could save our school from a data breach. I found this picture of the data lifecycle from the Privacy Technical Assistance Center to be very thought-provoking when researching this topic. Once you acquire the information, use it, store it, and then it needs to be destroyed. It's not doing any good after a certain amount of time. Not to mention it's probably taking up room on our hard drive. Okay, so once you get it and you use it, after that it needs to be destroyed. If it's paper, it needs to be shredded. Okay, surveillance cameras. According to the National Center for Education Statistics, more than 80% of public schools and more than 94% of high schools in the United States use security cameras to monitor students during the 2015-2016 school year. Now, as you all know, and you all see every day, we have surveillance cameras in our school. So just as quickly as surveillance cameras are entering our schools and schools around the United States, so are the laws and regulations for them. The images that are captured by surveillance cameras qualify as education records when they are maintained by the school and directly to a student. Okay, so if it's coming from our school surveillance cameras, that's an education record. Okay, that's not to be shared. Now, FERPA compliance. According to the Privacy Rights Clearinghouse, in FERPA's 30-year history, the extreme case of being cut from federal funding has not happened. So the U.S. Department of Education wants to work with school institutions to reach compliance if there was a case or a complaint or an issue brought to them. Okay, if a school is not willing or they're not able to come to compliance voluntarily, federal funds are withheld. Now again, according to the Privacy Rights Clearinghouse, in FERPA's 30-year history, there hasn't been one of those that federal funding was withheld. Okay, but we want to make sure that we're doing the right things. And here are some ways to help us. So iSight gave 8 great ways to make sure that we are FERPA compliant. We are a FERPA compliant school. It is my goal that you walk away from today's presentation with a little more understanding about FERPA than what you came with. It is our responsibility as a school to know the rights, protections, and expectations given by FERPA. My challenge to you, learn something new and share it with someone. Okay, my second challenge for you is to do some research on FERPA to protect yourself. Here are the resources that I use to present to you today. These would make a great starting point for you. Let's make MES the best school it can be. Make it happen, MES.